We'll we'll do a review of the Mamer Vehaya Eikev Tishmeun, which the Rebbe said in Shabbos Parshas Eikev Chof Menachem of tשטז. This is printed in the back of Chelik Daled in the Sefer Maamar in Meluket. This isn't a fully mugadik. Actually, it says Hanocha Bilti Muga. But as they point out in the point that on the Hanocha that they marked down in the library of Agudas Chasidei Chabad, the Rebbe fixed several corrections in his own handwriting. So therefore, they incorporated this mimer, even though it's Hanocha Bilti Muga. It appears here in the as the 42nd mimer in the Maimorim Meluket in Chelik Dalad. So we'll do the Mamer inside. H'tשטז, Shabbos Parshas Eikev Chof Menachem of h'tשטז, Hanocha Bilti Muga. So the Pasuk says, Vehaya Eikev Tishmeun es hamishpotim ha'ela ushmartem v'asisem oisot. So this is what the Yidden have to do, as the Rebbe will explain. The language here is we're talking about Eikev, the Ikvus of the Mashiach, at which time for sure Tishmeun. It's not a question V'hoya im Tishmeun, but Eikev Tishmeun, because you will listen, because at the end of the time of Galus, the Ikvus of the Mashiach, for sure the Yidden will listen. And the Rebbe will explain that the Pasuk talks about keeping all the mitzvahs in machshava, dibur, and maisa. The machshava, dibur, and maisa. And this elicits and brings from Hashem also the spiritual level of machshava, dibur, maisa, milmaila. V'shamar Hashem elikecha l'cho es habriz v'es hachesed asher nishba v'goymer. So Hashem will keep for you the covenant, the kindness that he has sworn to you, and the Rebbe will explain how this corresponds to the Avodah of the Yidden. So it's known, the diuk, the specific language that is used here, tishmeun, the haloshin tishmeun, the language of tishmeun, you will listen, pirusha, the meaning is tishmeun vade, for sure you will listen. So how actually can we say a Yid has a Bechira? We know the Torah always says, Im b'chukois, what does it mean for sure? And the answer is because it's Eikev Tishmeun, v'hainu. Lefi she'eikev koi al hazman dikvasa de Mashiach, since Eikev refers to the time of the heels of Mashiach, uma'achar shehu doir hayeser achron, and since it is the very last generation, so there's no choice. L'chein tishmeun vadai. That's why for sure you will listen. Lefi shehu doir hayeser achron v'efshel lechakes yeser is the last generation, and we can't wait any longer. So they have to do, before Mashiach comes, they have to listen. Siz nito event to uplegen the berurim. There is no other opportunities to delay these sorting out. We have to do it. And that's why you will certainly listen. Now the Rebbe brings down another interpretation. The word Tishmeun, Eikev Tishmeun, also means to gather in. Loshen vayishama sho. V'hinei b'teivas Tishmeun yesh gimel pirushim. In the word Tishmeun, there are three interpretations. Tishmeun meloshen havana. Tishmeun means you'll listen, you'll understand. K'may shekosuv, besides listening that doesn't just mean hearing, but tishmun, pay attention and understand. Like we say, daber kishamei avdecha, speak. It says in Shmuel Aleph, speak because I'm listening, meaning I'm paying attention, I understand. So the word tishmun kishamei avdecha means listen. And there's also Tishmon Meloshin Asifa, Meloshin gathering. K'moshe Kosuv, Vayishama Shaul es ha'om. Shaul gathered the people that uses the word Shama. So, Vayishama. So the word Tishmon is to gather. And also, the Tishmon Kipshuto Meloshin Shemiya, and Tishmon literally means to hear. So you have these three meanings in the word Tishmon. And the Rebbe will later on explain what does it mean to gather in, and the understanding of gathering all the scattered sparks through the Torah mitzvahs that we do to collect the thoughts that have been scattered, as the Rebbe will explain later on. Right now, the Rebbe wants to explain that these three things of Tishmon, Eikev Tishmeun, and Shmartem V'asisem is Machshava Dibur U'Maisa. So he says the Inyan Hashmiya Shayich LeMachshava. When we talk about listening in the simple Tishmeun, to listen, that has a connection to thought. Shaharei ha'oizen hirak ha'keli shal yodei shoymim. The ear, the physical ear, is only the vessel through which you hear, but who hears? Hears is the thought, your machshava. Aval hashmiya gufa, he b'machshava. The hearing itself is in thought. And the inyan hashmiya, and also the idea of listening, shayir gam ledibur, it also has a connection to speech, even though this is listening and that's speech. But how could you hear when somebody speaks? You hear when somebody speaks. So you have the two ideas of shmiya and dibur. When you just say shmiya, you're already saying also you listen. So you listen. There's also connected to dibur because you listen to what you're saying. So this is what it says: Tishma'un ushmartem v'asisem. Listen, and then shmartem, and then you do the tishma'un machshava. Tishmun, that's the thought. Ukenal, as we said before, shashmiya hi b'machshava. Listening is in the thought. Ushmartem hu dibur, and you should guard. That means you should speak. That's the level of dibur. Mamer, like the saying we say in Gemara and Kiddushin, the Rebbe brings down that Shmoir ze Mishnah. When it says Shomer, that's the study of Mishnah. And the Mishnah basically, what does it mean? You keep. To keep is to be able to perform the mitzvah as it comes down in the Mishnah. There is in the Gemara, there is a debate. So but the halacha psuka, the Mishnah is the rule. That's the ruling as it comes in speech. So there is the thought how to figure things out, which is a machshava, what the halacha is. But then ushmarta means that this thing that you have comes out in speech, and that becomes the one way. There's no different ways, no different possibility, no different ideas. In speech, it's been articulated. That's the Mishnah, is the shomer. The kasher has seichel hu b'machshava. when the seichel is still in thought, azayhu behelem hadayin. So then it's still obscure. It's in thought. Yeshnam ponim leheter v'tohir v'yeshna yesh ponim lebech. There is ways, there is possibility. This idea is to either make it permitted and pure, if the question that you have about the halacha, v'yesh ponim lebech, and then there is the possibility, the opposite of permitted and clean. That's still obscure. It's not come out in one way in speech. However, when the seichel comes openly in speech, so then we have the ruling of the halacha. And once we have the ruling of the halacha, we have clearly this is what the Torah wants. So then there could be no nurturing to the outers, because there is no doubt. There is very clearly what we need to do. The kasher hu behelem adayin, when it's still obscure, then there is possible to be a nurturing. The lack of clarity, the lack of precise, but when the ruling of the Torah comes out openly in the speech in halacha, azai ein lohem yenika, then there could be, they don't have the outers, the chitzonim, the klippas have no nurturing. Shomer is a Mishnah. That's why we say Shomer is Mishnah. Shaham Mishnah. Why? So what does it have to do with guarding? The guarding is because at that point there is no unikas chitzoni. That's why it's guarded. It's protected. V'zehu shomer ze mishnah. Sham mishnah she'inyona gilu haseichel b'dibur. The mishnah, what is the mishnah? That is to reveal the intellect in speech. Hishmira shelo yinikachulu, that is guarding. There should be no nurturing to the chitzonim, because there's clarity, there's very precise and very specific, and there's no yinika, and therefore that is called shmira. That's why it's called shomer. A shomer ze mishnah. Then you have V'asisim. And asisim is obviously who maisa. That's action. So now we have Tishma'un, which we said Shmiya is associated with the machshava. Then we have the Ushmartem, which is speech. It's connected to Shomer Mishnah, the level when it comes down Begilui in the Psak Halacha, in the Dibur, that guards it, so there's no unique. And then you have Asis and Maisa. You have Machshava Dibur Maisa. And how does it start? You have the three levels of Machshava Dibur Maisa within the Machshava, the three Taichim that the Rebbe brought before in the Lashon of Tishma'un, that also represents within Machshava the three levels of Machshava Dibur Maisa. Where does it start, these breakup of these Machshava Dibur Maisa? Mibchinas Machshava Dibur Maisa shebe Machshava Gufa, from the level of Machshava Dibur Maisa, which is in Machshava itself. Shazahu Gimel HaPirushim Shebetevas Tishmo. These are the three interpretation of the words Tishmo and the Machshava Dibur Maisa within Tishmo. The Shmiya Miloshen Havona, when we said Shmiya, Dabir ki shemei avdecho, he brought, I'm listening, I'm paying attention, I understand. That type of Shmiya Miloshen Havona, Hainu Machshava Shebe Machshava. That's the thought within the thought. And then you have Ushmiya Miloshin Asifa, Shmiya means to gather in. Vayishama Shol, as he brought the posik, mean to gather. Hainu Maisa Shebe Machshava, within your thought, the action, that's the gathering in. Ushmiya Kipshute, and just listening, Hainu Dibur Shebe Machshava. That's the Dibur in Machshava, Sheshemeya Mashabedabrim. You hear what they're speaking. So you have the machshava shemachshava, that's the level of understanding in the taich of Shmiya. You have the level of asiya machshava, which is gathering, loshen asifa, and then you have the listening, what you speak, that's the dibur shemachshava. Okay. And v'zeu v'haya eikev tishmeun. So what does the pasuk say? If you do your level, when the Yidden do their level of Machshava Dibru Maisa, the Eibishter responds in kind. Zeu v'hoya eikev Tishmeun gomer. Kasher Tishmeun b'bchinas Machshava Dibru Maisa shebe Machshava. First, you are going to listen. We're going to have the three levels of Machshava Dibru Maisa within Machshava. As we said, you'll understand, and you'll gather in, and you'll speak in the level of machshava, within machshava, the dibur machshava, the different steps within the machshava itself. And then, and then you will actually do these three within the actual expression of machshava dibur maisa. In actual machshava dibur maisa. In the speech, thought, speech, and action. Literally. So then, through this, when you do this, the response is that V'shomar Hashem Elikecho L'cho es habris v'chesed Hashem nishba. So Hashem, your God, will guard, keep for you the covenant and the kindness that He swore. These three things, bris, chesed, and shvuah, those are the machshava dibur maisa of above. The gimul inyonim elu, these three aspects, bris, chesed, shvuah, the bris, the covenant, and the chesed and shvuah, those are the level of Hashem's covenant, the level of Hashem's chesed, the level that Hashem swore. Heim hamamshocha milmaylo, they are the amshocha comes from above. The bris hu maisa, the covenant, that's the level of maisa above. The inyan, why is bris maisa? Covenant. The inyan akrisus bris, because what is the idea of when you form a covenant, hu shekoirsim davar sholem, you cut, krisus bris, you cut a covenant, which means you cut something which is whole. Lishnayim, you cut it into two. And the two parties in between, they become one through walking two parts of the same item that was cut. Through this covenant, the love amongst these two who are forming the covenant is going to be continuous, always. Even in a condition, situations where there will be no reason for love, not from because of speech. There's no reason based on speech, which means there's no good talk, there's no communications, and even not in the thought, you really don't think the same or on the same place, but still there's a krisus bris, that's the action, that's the poil mamish, that's the maisa. And yet there's going to be that level of love. There's no love logically, there is no love verbally, but there is still a love in action because they went through and made this covenant. They went through the pieces and they formed that bris. That's an action they walked through. Chesed, so that's bris is action. The chesed, shomuchas bris v'esa chesed. Chesed hu machshava. Chesed, that's the level of thought. Sharei chesed hu hergesh halev v'hamoyach. Because chesed is the feeling of the heart and the mind. So that is your thought process, what you feel and your mind that you understand. That's the machshava. And v'lochein hu b'chlal machshava. That's why chesed is included in machshava. So chesed over here is machshava. Ubefrat, but he's not just kan nemar b'shomar es chesed. That shomar es chesed he will guard kimevuer, as explained. Shomar es chesed, it's explained achiluk ben oiser chesed lenoitzer chesed. Sometimes the pasuk says oiser chesed, he does kindness. And sometimes it says noitzer chesed, that he guards, he keeps the chesed. So it's explained what's the chiluk between doing good or keeping the chesed. The oiser chesed hu asiyas chesed, that's doing the kindness, that's the act. The noitzer chesed, but to keep the chesed hu sheshomer es chesed the levovei v'machshavtoi. That is, that he keeps the kindness, not only that he does an act of kindness, but he has that sense and that feeling of kindness in his heart and in his thought. So since in this pasuk it says, V'shomar es chesed, that he will guard the chesed, so we're talking about chesed in the heart. That's why this has to do with machshava when the pasuk is talking about the chesed. So the bris is the maisa, and then you have the chesed. Ushavua udibur, and shavua you verbalize, you make us a shavua. So you have in the level of above that the Eibishter gives you the level from above, b'maisa and b'machshava and b'dibur. B'zeu Vehaya Eikev, and this is the connection of Eikev. Kasher tiya avodah milmata l'mayla. B'machshava dibur maisa, that when the avodah from below to above would be in machshava dibur maisa, in all three areas, both within machshava and then in machshava dibur maisa, as it comes out in poil, as aitia hamshochas dibur maisa milmay lamata. Then we will have, we'll draw down the machshava dibur maisa of godliness, of a lakus, will bring it down milmay lamata. So, v'tzorich, but the order, the Rebbe says, Rebbe wants to explain. So we have the bris is the maisa. That's usually we say machshava dibur maisa. Over here we're saying bris is the maisa, but then you have chesed and shavua. So you have machshava. You have the other way around. So you have maisa, and then you have chesed is machshava, maisa, machshava, and dibur. Why is it a different order? But tzarich lov and tam shina, I say that. Why is there a difference in order? So b'avodah milmata l'maylo, in the avodah milmata l'maylo with the yid, in the serusa de latata, the machshava dibur maisa, the yid, never a machshava dibur maisa kisidram. They're in their order. So you have in the order the inyan of Shema, which is machshava, ushmartem is dibur, and then vasisa machshava dibur maisa, the order. Tchila machshava, first machshava, v'achach dibur maisa, ubamshoch milmay lamata. But when we talk about as it comes down from above to below, Nemar Tchila Maisa. First it says Maisa, the bris. V'achar kach machshava u'dibur, and then machshava, which is the chesed, and then the shvu, which is the l'chayre. But it would seem, achar shehamshocha shemilmayla bo yidei avodas ha'odom, since the hamshocha from above comes through the service of the person, im kein hoya tzorich liya seder hamshocha milmayla, kifi seder avodah. So there should have been the order, the way it comes down from above, like the order of this of the avodah. Mao atam. So what's the reason? Sheba avodah haseder hu shemaise bo acharei machshava udibo. That in avodah, when we work our service milmata l'mayla, the order is that maise comes after machshava dibur. So you have first machshava and dibur, and then v'asisem the b'hamshocha milmayla. Bo ha'maisa koydem l'machshava dibur. But the first comes the maisa bris, and then you come to machshava dibur. So that's the Rebbe is presenting over here. Since the way the pasuk works is that our machshava dibur maisa brings down the machshava dibur maisa milmayla. So why is the order switched around? By our avodah, it works in the regular avodah as we touch the pasuk machshava dibur maisa. Okay, we understand. But milmayla, when we bring down, it starts with maisa and then it goes to a machshava and dibur. But l'cheira, since milmayla comes from the avodah milmata, it's a response to our avodah. How come it changes? The Rebbe will continue to explain.